my god.
I'm the cool kid from the block. I'm the one calling all the shots. Whether you're ready or not, I'm but too plenty. Drop. Go left, go right, working up my appetite. No fork, no knife, having dinner with my eyes.
Welcome to Lisbon, one of the oldest cities in Europe, rich in culture with beautiful architecture, magnificent viewpoints and amazing seafood. And what better way to start than with a Bica in Praca do Commercio, the main square here in Lisbon. Bica is a shot of espresso, which is an acronym for Bebe isso com açúcar, which in English simply translates to drink this with sugar. But this beautiful commerce square didn't always look like this. In 1755, Lisbon was hit with a series of earthquakes causing serious damage to this part of the city that demolished about 12,000 homes. The earthquakes also generated a tsunami that travelled a distance of over 3,500 miles, and fires broke out that lasted for 6 days, destroying what was left. The remaining buildings were preserved, so now you have a mix of architecture here in Lisbon, with modern homes now surrounding the buildings that survived the Great Lisbon earthquake.
While he eats my soup for lunch, feeling
I'm heading up to Sao Jorge Castle on the famous number 28 tram, which manoeuvres its way around the beautiful neighbourhoods of Graça, Alfama, Bica and Estrela. It also passes by Lisbon Cathedral, which is one of the most recognisable churches in the Portuguese capital. The line has been operating since 1914, but in fact Lisbon was one of the last cities to introduce electric trams to its streets for fears of dangers they could cause. Now you may think that these trams look familiar, and it's because they're called Carros Americanos, which were shipped directly from the United States. However, there is a rule when boarding these historic trams, as you must join the end of the queue if you wish to hop on, as they only hold about 20 people and sitting is very limited, so hold on tight during your journey. You can purchase your ticket on board with cash or card for €3, so it's best to buy a travel card from the metro station or a Lisboa card to save you some money. I'll talk more about travel later, so stay tuned for that. Sao Jorge Castle is a gorgeous hilltop Moorish fortress which offers the best views of Lisbon and the Tagus River. It was built by the Visigoths during the 5th century and later modified and enlarged by the Moors in the mid-11th century. It was taken over during the reign of King Afonso, altered once again and served as the residence of the royal palace. The sunsets here are absolutely spectacular, and they have a small museum plus a cafe to stop off and relax while you enjoy the views. It's free entrance for children under the age of 12 but €15 for adults, and it closes at 9 PM during the summer months and 6 PM in winter. I will leave a link where you can purchase tickets online in the description. Or you can skip the queue when you're here by buying tickets on the machine inside the office. When you're in Lisbon, you're definitely in for a workout because it's known for the city of 7 hills, but actually it has 8. Graça, hidden behind Sao Jorge Castle, is its highest, which peaks at 200 metres above sea level. When Rome announced itself the city of 7 hills, Lisbon couldn't let that prestige slide, so they removed Graça, and it is also known for the city of 7 hills. Lisbon is split into 3 main districts: Bairro Alto, the upper district, which is one of the city's most historic districts, Bica, the lower district, and Alfama, which boasts some of the most famous viewpoints such as Portas del Sol and Mirador de Santa Lucia, where most people pose for the perfect Instagram pic. After all that walking, I've worked up an appetite, so it's time for lunch. So I've stopped off at Floresta das Escadinhas to try the best sardines in Lisbon. They come doused in olive oil and covered in garlic. You have to be careful when eating them because there are a lot of bones. It's a delicate way to eat this fish as you don't want to swallow any bones, as I speak from experience. You do find that a lot of the Portuguese dishes are grilled over charcoal, and to be honest, it's absolutely delicious. Portugal is known for its seafood, and I've been super impressed at the quality and the freshness of the food. And if you're thinking of coming to this restaurant, bear in mind it's only open for lunch, and it's definitely recommended to book in advance because it gets really busy. The origins of pasta de nata date back to before the 18th century, where they were created by Catholic monks at the Jeronimos Monastery, which is where I'm heading to next. In the aftermath of the Liberal Revolution of 1820, the monks started selling pastéis de nata at a nearby sugar refinery to bring in revenue. In 1834, the monastery was closed and the recipe sold to the sugar refinery, whose owners opened the Pastéis de Belem, and their descendants own the business to this day. However, my favourite place to eat these Portuguese tarts is at Manteigaria, where the service is quick, it's served warm, and I like mine with a little bit of cinnamon sprinkled on top. You can have icing sugar as well. The custard is so creamy and the pastry is really thin and flaky, perfect. So I'm in Belem, just going to visit the Jeronimos Monastery, and that's where they first made pastel de nata. It is one of the most famous buildings representing the Portuguese late Gothic Manueline architectural style in Lisbon, and it took 100 years to complete. Just a 15-minute walk from here you have the Belem Tower, a medieval fortified defence tower where the Portuguese would gather to welcome back voyagers on their journeys across the globe. Nowadays you can marvel at the jaw-dropping views of the estuary from the rooftop terrace. If you do plan to visit, I suggest getting here early to avoid long queues, and the tower opens at 10 AM but is closed on Mondays. Along the Tagus River from Belem Tower you have the Monument of the Discoveries, which celebrates the maritime exploration of the Portuguese. This impressive 171-foot monument, which has prominent figures from the Age of Discovery such as Henry the Navigator, Vasco da Gama among others. And if you take the stairs and the elevator to the top, you have a great view of the marble mosaic at the foot of the monument. That represents a compass with a world map in the centre. You can also admire the views of the Tagus by walking or cycling along the 17-kilometre path along the river. You can pass by Praca de Commercio, 25 de Abril Bridge, and numerous restaurants, bars and cafes. I think it's time for some more Portuguese cuisine, so let's head to Timeout Market.
I'm way up on the coke and rum, you stay up, hoping I'll come home. Don't wait up, cause I'm way too gone. Don't wait up, wait up.
Every major city has a market that everyone flocks to, and the Timeout Market at Mercado Riviera is the one in Lisbon. The concept was created in 2014 by the team at Timeout Portugal and can be found in other cities such as Miami and Dubai. Here you can find some of the freshest fish, meat and fruit in town. Try the tastiest local wine and dine at over 40 restaurants specialising in Portuguese cuisine and food from all around the world. And the vibe here is buzzing. There's so many people here and you can just get lots of different food and meet friends. It's a great place to visit.
Cause the song is such a magic. Turn it up, yeah, 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 yeah.
So I've stopped off at this popular place behind me for a local drink called Ginjinha. Now there's no gin in this, it's actually a sweet Portuguese liquor made from aguardente, which is a very strong distilled alcohol that has been infused with morello cherries and sweetened with a lot of sugar. The shot of Ginjinha is just traditionally served straight and it's drunk any time of day, and boy it has a kick to it. After this I definitely think I need some food to soak up some of that alcohol. I'm at Frade dos Mares, which is a cosy Portuguese seafood restaurant, and I've come to try the bacalhau. This fish is found all over the coast of Portugal in the Atlantic Ocean, and in English it's simply called salted cod. The Portuguese have over 160 ways to cook it. You need to drain the fish in water for over 24 hours to get rid of all the salt and rehydrate it. The bacalhau was roasted and came with lots of garlic, coriander and doused in olive oil. My partner had the octopus, which was outstanding. It was so tender. It's a must try. The trip to Lisbon would be incomplete without experiencing the sound of Fado, which actually means fate. The sorrow mournful tunes originate from sailors leaving their loved ones to go on a dangerous sea voyages across the world, usually gone for weeks and months at a time. Its roots come from the Alfama district where most sailors lived, and the longing sounds with a classic Portuguese guitar can be heard when walking around at night in the district. It's so beautiful and heartfelt, and you can really feel the emotion in the music. There are so many places that offer Fado, and you can either grab a meal or just get a drink and listen in. I'm in Alex Factory, which sits under the 25 de Abril Bridge, which spans across the River Tagus, connecting the historic centre of Lisbon with the Almada district, where the Sanctuary of Christ the King guards the city. It is often compared to the other Golden Gate Bridge, and that's because it was actually constructed by the same company. The LX factory was transformed from a manufacturing complex to this now new hip, trendy area filled with restaurants, shops, cafes and galleries, so definitely a place to check out.
End of the road. Right now it doesn't even matter. It's too late now.
For all you Nando lovers out there, I have a treat for you. I'm at Chickinho, which is known for its piri piri chicken, which is simply grilled chicken covered in piri piri. The word piri piri comes from the Swahili word meaning pepper, which was originally produced by the Portuguese in southern Africa. It's so tender and juicy, and the piri piri gives it such a nice kick, not too overwhelming. There are other places in Lisbon which are known for their piri piri chicken, such as Bom Jardim and Franciscaire Nacional, which is the best, but unfortunately they ran out of chicken, so I couldn't go there this time. If you're planning on visiting Santa Justa, which is one of the most popular attractions in Lisbon, I have a little surprise for you. You can skip the queue for the lift that goes to the top by taking the stairs opposite where everyone is queuing. There'll be a sign for city lockers, and it will eventually lead you to Carmo Convent, and if you turn right it will take you directly to the Santa Justa viewing point. You can actually go inside the elevator and see the views, and if you want to go higher to the observation deck, you can pay an extra fee and go up the stairs. Another option is taking the lift in the shop Oslo. The elevator was constructed by Raul de Ponsard, a Portuguese engineer of French parentage who was a student of Gustave Eiffel, and he applied the same techniques used to build the Eiffel Tower. If you still want to ride the elevator, you can use your travel card or Lisboa card, so it's no extra cost. I was recommended to try Bifana, which is a pork sandwich, so I've stopped off at one of the best in the city, Bifanas dos Afonso. You can also get a beef version, which is called prego, but this place only does Bifanas. The pork is thinly sliced and slowly cooked, served in a hearty bread roll with a splash of spicy piri piri sauce or mustard. You can even have both, and let me tell you, it's so good. You have to try this. I thought it'd be a little bit tough, but the meat is so juicy and the bread with the mustard complements it perfectly. It's a thumbs up from me. Rua Nova de Carvalho, better known as Pink Street, was literally painted pink and transformed from the red light district to the party hotspot. Years ago, the sailors would spend their last nights here before going on long voyages across the world, but now it's known for its super cool bars and clubs, and I'm one called Pensao Amor, which actually used to be a brothel. They have some fantastic music and cocktails, and actually the bar still has some original features such as a dance pole and some hidden areas where people could sneak off and not be found. I found navigating Lisbon really easy. The travel card they have here is called the Viva Via Gem card, which is reusable and costs 50 cents. It can be used for trams, buses, trains, boats and the metro. You just top it up with credit and tap the card over the sensor to pay, which is known as zapping. Alternative, if you're planning on travelling a lot by public transport in one day, you can add a 24-hour ticket to your card. The other option when you are sightseeing is the Lisboa card, which includes transportation as well as entry to 39 museums, monuments and places of interest such as Belem Tower and the Jeronimos Monastery. You can buy the card for up to 72 hours, and if you buy it online you get a 5% discount. I collected my card when I arrived at the airport. Walking is another great way to see the sights, but it's really hilly, so bring your trainers and leave your heels at home. Also be careful when it's wet, as the streets can get really slippery. There are also 3 funiculars and the Santa Justa elevator that saves you walking up and down the hills. Taxi and ride sharing apps such as Uber, Bolt and Free Now are readily available, and I find that were a lot cheaper than back home. I would recommend getting the metro from Lisbon Airport into the city, as it's easy, cheap and it only takes about 25 minutes. Otherwise you have buses, trains and taxis, but bear in mind if you have large luggage you can only get on the Aerobus and not the regular city buses. If you're planning on visiting Sintra or the surrounding beaches, buy your tickets ahead of time, as the trains can get really busy.